What are you doing?
This Martin Luther King thing.
Hi all, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Ellie Boyle, and I am a senior at Bowling Green High School, as well as a member of the Human Relations Commission. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 32nd Annual Drum Major for Peace Award, celebrating the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. The Martin Luther King Jr. holiday celebrates the life and legacy of a man who brought hope and healing to America. We commemorate as well the timeless values he taught us through his example. The values of courage, truth, justice, compassion, dignity, humility, and service that so radically defined Dr. King's character and empowered his leadership. On this day, we commemorate Dr. King's great dream of a vibrant, multiracial nation united in peace, justice, and reconciliation, a nation that has a place for the table at the children of every race and a room at the inn for every needy child. We are called on this holiday not merely to honor, but to celebrate the values of equality, tolerance, and interracial sister and brotherhood he so compellingly expressed in his dream for America. Now, please welcome Mayor Mike Oshbacher, the mayor of Bowling Green, who will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
Mike.
I'm sorry. Now I believe I'm unmuted. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining with us this evening to celebrate the 32nd Annual Bowling Green Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Tribute. Each year, this day is set aside to celebrate the life and to honor the legacy of a man who brought hope to our country and reminded us that there is nothing that we cannot accomplish when we work together. Throughout Dr. King's life, his actions and words prompted dialogue and reflection in our nation. The power of his words still resonates with us today. Through his words, we find inspiration and encouragement to continue this dialogue and reflection. He inspires us to reach for better tomorrows and aspires us to work towards our highest ideals as humans and as a nation. As we begin a new year and reflect on the year past, we know that there is much work yet to do if we are to accomplish Dr. King's goals of ensuring racial equality, dignity, freedom, and justice for every individual in America. As your mayor, I am committed to working with all of you to ensure that Bowling Green continues to be a welcoming and inclusive community, that we remain a place that embraces our differences and builds on our shared values, along with the refusal to allow old prejudices to divide us. Together, we can make a difference. Many thanks this evening to the Human Relations Commission for your commitment to this event and your efforts to ensure the continuation of this important celebration here in Bowling Green. Again, I thank all of you for joining this evening. I ask that you now join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. And now I will shift it back to Ellie.
Thank you for your heartfelt words, Mayor Oshbacher. Our next guest is one of our senators from Ohio, Senator Sherrod Brown, who will be sharing a few words with us this evening on the lasting impact of Dr. Martin Luther King.
I'm Sherrod Brown. It's an honor and a privilege to serve as your United States Senator. Over the course of 24 hours this month, we bore witness to the best in our country and the worst. Our capital, our citadel of democracy, as the president-elect called it, was sieged by domestic terrorists, grounded in white supremacy at the urging of a racist commander-in-chief. These people weaponized and brandished symbols of racial terror. They brought a noose to the grounds of the Capitol. They paraded Confederate flags through the halls of the People's House, all with impunity. They trespassed, they looted, they vandalized. Unsurprisingly, these white supremacists were met with a much different reaction from the reaction they would have gotten that peaceful protesters got calling for racial justice faced over the past year throughout our history of activists demanding civil rights and equality. Just imagine the difference, what happened at the Lincoln Memorial with Black Lives Matter, with what happened at the US Capitol with these white supremacists. For 4 years, far too many politicians, senators, congressmen, state legislators in Washington and Columbus and Lansing and Harrisburg, they defended this racist president and his rhetoric, or at best, they just remained silent, ominously silent. Anyone who's been paying attention to the last 4 years or the last 400 years cannot be surprised by this insurrection that happened this week. Anyone this month, we've known what this president and who he is all along. Remember his words after Charlottesville. I won't be the only person on this podium today for this event that brings up Charlottesville, and that the president said there were very fine people on both sides. That was a direct dog whistle message to the Klan, to the white supremacists, to the people, to the insurrectionists who invaded our Capitol this month. After the final votes for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were certified in the early hours of the morning in the desecrated House chamber, the chaplain prayed. These tragedies have reminded us that words matter and the power of life and death is in the tongue. The power of life and death is in the tongue. Think about that. The man we honor today understood that, wrote beautifully, spoke persuasively, and changed the world. He moved mountains, as we know, with his words. The movement he led is alive in our time, carried on by the people here today in our communities in Ohio and across the country. The same day seditionists and white supremacists stormed our Capitol, that day that will live in infamy, January 6th, that same day, a Jewish man and a Black pastor were declared the winners in Georgia's Senate race. My friend, the Reverend Dr. Warnock, or maybe we call him now the Reverend Dr. Senator Warnock, his race was called just after midnight in early January 6th. John Ossoff ran a little bit behind Pastor Warnock, but ahead of his opponent. His race was called later in the day during the time that these seditionists, these insurrectionists were launching their unsuccessful coup d'etat against the United States of America. It's what gives me hope. Reverend Warnock, the man who preached from Dr. King's father's pulpit, won, and the hate coming from the White House lost. Think about that. Black voters have faced every suppression tactic that voter suppression tactic invented. Anyone we can imagine, but they organized. They voted for change in record numbers. They heeded the words of Dr. King that progress, in his letter to the Birmingham jail in 1963, progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. Progress never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability. It rolls in because we make it so. We know our country. We know our country holds within it both the capacity for terrible acts like we saw in the halls of the Capitol, and the capacity for tremendous love and humility emboldened in the life and the words and the career of our friend John Lewis. And his words, make trouble, make good, necessary trouble. Our charge is to bring out the best in our nation rather than the worst. We saw both that first week in January. We saw the election of two progressive civil rights champions. We saw white supremacists storm our Capitol. Often the greatest progress comes out of the darkest of times. It's up to us to brighten the day out of these dark times. It must be our work to heal this country, to overcome the pandemic, and to bring us closer to the promised land that Dr. King envisioned. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Senator Brown, for your remarks. We wanted to remind everyone that preceding the program, our guests Anna Brown and Jennifer McCary will be holding a Q&A with our audience members. To leave a question for the end of the program, simply type it at any time in the chat function on YouTube. Next, we have a special piano performance from Kevin McGill, Director of Music at St. Mark's Lutheran Church. He will be playing Lift Every Voice and Sing for us this evening. In a normal year, we would all be able to sing together, so feel free to sing from your respective homes tonight. Thank you, Mr. McGill, for the special performance. As some of you may know, Human Relations Commission works with Not in Our Town on many events throughout the year. Tonight, we welcome Dawn Chanu, a Not in Our Town co-chair and Dean of the College of Education and Human Development at BGSU, who will be speaking about Not in Our Town's work and purpose in our community.
Thank you, Ellie. It's an honor to be with all of you tonight. As a member of the community of Bowling Green, Ohio and Bowling Green State University, I commit to provide a safe and inclusive environment for our friends and neighbors. I commit to end hate and intolerance in our community and will not tolerate acts of discrimination based on race, ethnicity, gender identity, expression, sexuality, ability, religious, secularism, class, or any other factors. I pledge to lead a life and live through example by stopping bigotry before it starts. I understand that being silent in the face of acts of intolerance is unacceptable. I pledge to take a stand against any and all hateful actions in Bowling Green, Ohio, my town. Many of you will recognize this statement as the Not in Our Town pledge. In many ways, this pledge and NIAT's work embody the spirit and vision of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose legacy we honor here today. For the last year and a half, I have had the distinct honor of serving with Emily Dunapace as a co-chair of Bowling Green's NIAT organization. I am proud to be part of this group. Since NIAT BG's founding on April 17, 2013, members of this group have worked to be responsive to incidents of hate in our community and to be proactive in organizing educative, collaborative opportunities for members of our community to come together to learn and grow. And while I yearn for the day when groups like NIAT will no longer be necessary, it is clear that this work is not yet finished. Extremism and hate are on the rise, even as millions have joined together chanting Black Lives Matter. The divisions between and among us feel deeper and wider than ever before. But as Dr. King reminded us, human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. I am especially grateful that one of NIAT's members, one of those dedicated individuals who help us on our journey to the goal of justice, is being honored here tonight. Dr. King also said, not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great because greatness is determined by service. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Anna Brown's heart is full of grace. Her soul is generated by love. And I'm happy that at least for tonight, she also gets to be a little famous. Those of you who have been involved with NIAT over the years know that Anna is one of the original members of our group. She served as a BGSU co-chair and is an active member of our steering committee. Anna is an incredible resource with extensive knowledge and information on multicultural affairs and social justice. Anna has served as a panelist and moderator for countless NIAT community conversations and other public events. In her role as director of BGSU's Office of Multicultural Affairs, Anna works with numerous student groups and serves as a mentor and support system for hundreds of students. Anna has also been heavily involved in Bowling Green's Interfaith Breakfast. While this long list of contributions is enough for this well-deserved recognition, it is also important to acknowledge the way that Anna contributes. Her work can be described as lifting others up. She often works quietly, behind the scenes, shunning the limelight, but making good things happen. And always, Anna educates others with a unique combination of gentleness and incredible strength, the embodiment of what it means to live and serve with amazing grace. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Chanu and Not in Our Town for all your work you do in the betterment of our community. Next, I am proud to welcome Anthony King, a BGSU student, Human Relations Commission member, and Brave Director. Tonight, Anthony will be performing a Negro spiritual for us. Also, it's Anthony's birthday tonight.
Hello, everyone. The song I'll be singing for you guys today is Deep River. Deep river, my home is on Jordan, deep river, I want to cross over into campground. Deep river, my home is over Jordan. Deep river, Lord, I want to cross over into campground. Oh, don't you want to go to that gospel feast, that promised land, where all is peace, deep river, I want to cross over into campground. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Anthony, for the beautiful piece, as well as all of your work that you do in the Bowling Green community. Without further ado, I am proud to introduce the Drum Major for Peace Award. The Drum Major for Peace Award is given to a citizen of Bowling Green who has made significant efforts to further the betterment of human relations by actively promoting justice, peace, and respect, and who exemplifies Dr. King's character, value, and values of courage, truth, compassion, dignity, humility, and service. We have Anna's award here tonight, and it reads, "In recognition of the community, dedication to the community, and an appreciation for her concern of the welfare of others by building strong relationships among the citizens of Bowling Green." While choosing just one member of the community was a hard choice for Human Relations Commission to make, we unanimously decided to award Anna Brown with this year's Drum Major for Peace Award. Anna serves as the Director of Multicultural Affairs. Previously, she held positions as the Coordinator for Diversity and Retention Initiatives for the Office of Residence and the Assistant Director for the Sidney A. Ribeau President Leadership Academy. Anna has completed Social Justice Training Institute and Federal Mediation Facilitator Training. As well, she is a facilitator for Safe Zone, True Colors, and the National Coalition Building Institute, and has presented numerous workshops on a wide variety of leadership, diversity, and inclusion topics throughout Northwest Ohio. She is a Northwest Ohio native. She received her BA in music and MS in molecular genetics from The Ohio State University and her MED in learning design from BGSU. It is my honor to present the 2021 Drum Major for Peace Award to Anna C. Brown.
Thank you, Ellie. I'm so honored and so appreciative of receiving this award. I look at the company that I am amongst with who has received the award in the past, and I'm truly humbled. It feels odd for me to be recognized for something that I feel that I'm supposed to be doing, as not just because of my position, but as a productive member of our society. But I also am standing on shoulders of people who have been doing this work for a really long time, and the example set for me not only by my mother and my father, but my sister and my entire family. So living a life of service is kind of what we do, and it's really funny that Dawn used that King quote, because I was actually going to use that quote as I was talking, but I'll go ahead and do the part of it that comes before what Dawn quoted. And it says, "If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant." That's a new definition of greatness. And this morning, the thing that I like about that, by giving that definition of greatness It means everybody can be great because everybody can serve. And so one of the things that I would ask us all to do is, as members of this community, is to serve fully, serve intentionally, try to look at where we can make differences in our small ways, because the small ways matter. And as we move forward, if each of us kind of create that snowball effect, we're a snowflake joins with other snowflakes and creates an avalanche. And so I'm hoping that we can create an avalanche of positivity and service and kindness and caring amongst the BG community. So thank you again so much for this award. I'm so very grateful, and I am so very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations on and thank you for your tireless work in our community. We have another musical performance from Sean Mathy, who will be singing O Sole Mio, and we have a little bio from Mr. Mathy. From the age of 5, Sean could be heard doing his best to imitate the operatic sounds of his father, BGSU professor Emeritus Richard Mathy. Although he continued to sing and develop his voice, Sean decided not to pursue a career in music. He opted instead to study finance at Bowling Green State University and worked as a financial services professional. His plans changed, however, when his voice was brought to the attention of Toledo Opera's James Mina. This led to Sean's being accepted to the prestigious Academy of Vocal Arts in Philadelphia. After graduating from the Academy, Sean's international career was launched in Frankfurt, Germany, where he became a member of the Frankfurt Opera Ensemble for 4 years. He later joined the ensemble in Zurich while continuing his international guest appearances. With 35 leading roles to his credit, he has been heard in nearly every major opera house around the globe, including Chicago, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Rome, Vienna, Salzburg, Seoul, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Paris. Sean retired from his operatic stage in 2016. While still an active singer and voice teacher, he now works again in the field of finance as Vice President of Operations at Healthcare Professionals Federal Credit Union. Sean lives in Bowling Green with his wife, soprano and Bowling Green State University voice faculty member Sujan Lee, and their 2 daughters. Now we have his performance.
Good evening, I'm Sean Mathy. I'm so honored to be invited to sing for you this evening. I was thinking about growing up as a child and all the singing that went on in my household and our family household. One of the songs I sang, like most children sing, is You Are My Sunshine. And maybe as a kid, I don't know how important I knew sunshine was, except that I knew it meant I could go outside and play with my friends. But now that I'm older, I realize how sunshine makes me feel. It makes me want to be active. It makes me want to engage with other people. And it certainly, at times, even gives me goosebumps, especially when it's combined with beautiful music. So I think at this point in time, sunshine's more important than ever. As we look ahead to the spring, as we look ahead to the effects of sunshine and figurative light on transparency, it just is so important for us to keep looking ahead and keep embracing the beautiful warmth that sunshine brings. So I would like to sing for you this evening what I consider to be the Neapolitan version of You Are My Sunshine, O Sole Mio. Give me just a moment, I have to cue the orchestra. Maestro, if you will, please. Che bella cosa, la giornata è sole, la l'aria serena dopo la tempesta e l'aria fresca pare già la festa. Che bella cosa una giornata e sole, ma tu sole, più bello niente. Oh sole mio, stai in fronte a te. Oh sole mio, sta in fronte a te, sta in fronte a te. Oh sole mio, sta in fronte a te, sta in fronte a te. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthey, for that beautiful performance. Joining us next is our keynote speaker, Jennifer McCary, Chief Diversity and Belonging Officer at BGSU. She is currently working on her doctorate in Organization Development and Change. She is a two-time TEDx speaker, an artist, and was named Woman of Distinction by BGSU in 2019. As well, she received the 20 Under 40 Award by the City of Toledo in 2019. McCary serves on a steering committee for Not in Our Town and Welcome BG, and is also a member of the Bowling Green Coalition for Social Justice and Inclusion. She is serving her second year as chair for the Commission of Student Conduct and Legal Issues for the American College Personnel Association. McCary is trained in Title IX and Student Conduct Investigations, Trauma-Informed Investigations, Restorative Justice, Bystander Intervention, and is a certified diversity professional. She trains on the topics of civility and bystander intervention, unconscious bias, as well as Title IX. McCary has made it her professional goal to help reduce violence and improve the climate as it relates to inclusion in as many places as possible. Thank you, Ms. McCary.
Thank you. I would like to express my gratitude for the invitation to speak with you this evening. I've had the opportunity to serve as an MLK keynote for others, and each time I see it as a great privilege to help honor the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. I should warn you that my words may be triggering and will make some of you uncomfortable if I am to truly honor his legacy. I do not intend to spend the brief time that we have together tonight talking about his dream, however great it was. I plan to speak to you about his reality, because his dream is what made him legendary, but his reality is what made him as ordinary as you and I. What I mean by that is that Dr. King lived during a time of great hate and division in this nation, as do we. Lately, I've heard a number of people say things like, the America we see on display is not who we are, and we're better than this. I almost think that people are afraid to admit our shortcomings for fear of either being viewed as unpatriotic or ungrateful. As the daughter of a Navy veteran and proud American, I want to model that it is okay to be critical of our nation. In fact, perhaps it's time that more of us were. The reality is, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated for advocating for equality and calling for justice. So when we say that the hate and violence on display as of late is not us, there are many people who would disagree. Specifically, those who lived through May 21st, 1921, November 22nd, 1963, April 4th, 1968, April 19th, 1995, July 20th, 2012, June 17th, 2015, June 12th, 2016, August 11th, 2017, and January 6th, 2021. For some, these are just dates. For others, these are traumas that are now embedded in the fabric of American history. This was the massacre of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the assassination of JFK in Dallas, Texas, followed by MLK in Memphis, Tennessee, the premeditated murders in the Oklahoma City bombing, the slaying of movie viewers in Aurora, Colorado, the execution-style death of worshipers in Charleston, South Carolina, the slaughter of clubgoers in Orlando, Florida, the deadly clashes at Unite the Right in Charlottesville, Virginia, all dates leading to the insurrection and attempted coup in Washington, D.C. The sad reality is that I have only listed a limited number of horrific events as to not depress you too much, but that all leads to my main points. It is time to acknowledge who we are, but perhaps it is also time to embrace that it is not who we always have to be. I spend a lot of time talking to people about diversity and inclusion issues and convincing folks that they think about things like identity and belongingness several times a week, even if they don't refer to it as such. In many of my conversations, people tell me things like, I really appreciate the work that you and your team do. Perhaps I could join more discussions on issues that matter so much. Or I get, perhaps one day I will have that conversation with my family. Or I know that this is a worthwhile cause that perhaps I should become more involved in. If you have ever thought to yourself that something must change in our world, but you did not know how to contribute or downplay what your involvement could do, then let me offer you this advice. Opportunities to contribute to a more just society exist. But what often happens is that we wonder what we can do to ever make a difference. And some of us see no possible way that our one voice, our singular efforts would ever make a dent in breaking down barriers or tackling systemic issues. The weight of fighting injustice can seem too heavy to bear. But when we find power in our words, remembering that voice comes in many forms, we will realize that we cannot remain silent on issues that matter. Our collective silence is what allows injustice to persist. Each of us has the ability to set atmospheres and shift undesirable cultures. If you've ever heard me speak at any various MLK event, then you know that my favorite quote of his is the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Now, there are a number of reasons why I love that quote, but the top two are that although brief, it speaks to our struggles and victories from 1619 to 1776 to 2009 to 2020 and beyond. And the other reason is because it is a call to action, since nothing can bend without intentionality. To bend literally means to shape or change the direction of something. Too often, we have been the one shaped and defined instead of the one shifting the atmosphere. Perhaps it is time to change that. I wish to share a few stories with you as I lead you to my closing. I first reflect on a short story by an unknown author about a mother listening to her daughter sulk over life. As the daughter asked for advice, the mother pulled out 3 pots, filled them with water, and placed carrots in one, eggs in another, and coffee beans in the third. She listens to her daughter as the water comes to a boil on each pot. Directing her daughter's attention to the pot, the mother fished out the carrots and placed them in a bowl. She pulled out the eggs and placed them in a bowl. Then she ladled the coffee into a bowl. She asked her daughter to describe what she saw, and the daughter replied, carrots, eggs, and coffee. The mother asked her daughter to feel the carrots. She noted that they were soft. She asked her to break the egg, and after pulling back the shell, she observed a hard-boiled egg. Finally, she asked her to sip the coffee. The daughter noted the rich taste and aroma. The daughter said, "Mom, what is the point?" Her mother explained that each of these objects had faced some adversity, the boiling water, but each reacted differently. The carrot went in strong, hard, and unrelenting. And after being subjected to boiling water, it softened and became weak. The egg had been fragile, but after facing adversity had become hardened. The coffee beans were unique, however. They changed the water. I enjoy this story so much that I have a picture of a carrot, egg, and coffee beans hanging in my office. A good colleague once said that she thought that it was a picture to remind me to stop and eat. Instead, it's my reminder to constantly ask myself if I'm letting the cruelties of the world change me, or if I remain determined to change the atmosphere no matter the circumstances. Imagine if Dr. King would have completely softened or hardened in the face of adversity. Better yet, imagine where we would be if he told himself that he should keep his dreams, hopes, and voice to himself. Instead, he said, perhaps it's time to shift the atmosphere. The second story that I wish to share is from a popular video called Ripple. A woman was in a grocery store with her 2 young grandchildren. The granddaughter grabbed a cake from the bakery, and when she arrived to the register with her family, she was told that they did not have enough money and would get the cake when they could afford it. The girl begged, reminding her grandmother that she was told the same thing last time she asked for something, and said that if she could just get this cake, she wouldn't ask for another thing. The woman sadly told her that they simply couldn't afford it. The family purchased their essentials and left the store. A man in line behind them purchases the cake and rushes out to hand it to the little girl. The grandmother says that they cannot accept it, but the man insists, telling them that when he was about the girl's age, he wanted a cake for his birthday, but his mother could not afford it. He recalled a man purchasing the cake for him. His mother asked for the man's contact information so that they could repay him and handed him a piece of paper. As he finished recalling his memory, the man shared that he would never forget that man's kindness and that they just remember to help someone else if they were ever in a position to do so. The woman asked the man for his contact information so that her family could one day repay him. He wrote on a slip of paper and handed it to the little girl. When the family arrived home, the girl ran in screaming, "Grandpa, Grandpa, we got this cake for your birthday." The man looked so grateful. And as his grandchildren ran off to put the cake away, he told his wife that she didn't have to spend money on a cake. She explained that a nice man bought it, and the granddaughter runs over explaining that the man had also given them a note, handing it to her grandfather. When he opened the note, it read, "A simple act of caring creates an endless ripple." The grandfather flashes back to when he was younger and once purchased a cake for a young boy who was with his mom when he had written the exact same words on a slip of paper. This is the very moment as a viewer when you realize that his gesture had come full circle. I urge you to consider that for a moment. A singular act creates an endless ripple indeed. But if we replace care with violence, hate, destruction, our ripples would create communities that no one would want to live in. What would our communities feel like if caring about others was normalized? Better yet, perhaps we could be the ones to create a culture of care. Now, let me be perfectly clear. Black and Indigenous people of color are tired of caring about communities that have no love in return. So even as I speak about creating this culture, understand that it will first have to come with reform and rebuilding trust. After all, a man like Dr. King, who was known for nonviolence and the promotion of care and love, was murdered at a young age because people did not care enough about his life or his message. This theme of a lack of care for Black and brown bodies was not new then and has not been resolved since. But I won't go there, not tonight. Instead, I have one final story I wish to share. Once, my husband and I were attending the funeral of one of his friends. He was asked to offer a eulogy, and following his remarks, the pastor spoke about this friend in a way that I recall being so eye-opening, given that we had known him and his family for years. He told a story of how this man was a great gardener. He described their row home in Baltimore, Maryland, and how there was not a lot of grass. People would laugh at him when they learned that he was a gardener, no less that his garden was in the middle of inner city Baltimore in a concrete pathway that he had dug out to start to plant flowers and vegetables. The pastor spoke about how people who actually saw his flowers and produce grew to be amazed. They came to be amazed with the fact that he was growing things in the middle of concrete. It turns out that his passion for gardening had inspired a number of other people to plant things as well. During his eulogy, the pastor made a point that remains with me. It was this: there are some things that don't happen in people until your success triggers them. I left that funeral that day and returned to the campus where I worked at the time, where I had to deliver remarks to a room full of students on how to become change agents. This funeral and the life of this friend was at the forefront of my mind. So I pivoted and I had those 60 students who I was with plant vegetable seeds that we later placed in a community garden that still grows outside of the dining hall on that campus. Even in his death, this friend's life inspired growth. Like our friend who had the audacity to grow flowers and vegetables through concrete, despite what people may have said, Dr. King grew hope out of fear and encouraged others to do the same. You see, what separates change agents from everyone else is that they are not willing to imprison their potential behind the bars of others' discomfort. So here's my request of you. If you are going to use the term perhaps, follow it up with it's time to have the audacity to no longer just measure the temperature of the atmosphere like a thermometer. I want you to change the atmosphere like a thermostat. Dr. King once said that life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are we doing for others? I carry that very question in my heart daily. When people ask me if I grow tired, I do not hide the fact that the work that I do is difficult. But because I know to count my blessings every day, I continuously commit myself to making life better for someone else. As miserable as this world can be sometimes, I am reminded that misery loves company, but so does hope. If you haven't already done so, commit to learning something, sharing something, changing something that makes you uncomfortable. Commit to telling yourself and others something real instead of always looking for what is right. Look to change something that is difficult, because what is easy typically doesn't make anything better. Commit to doing instead of thinking or saying, because well done beats well said every time. Who we are is not who we were and does not have to be who we will become. But perhaps we could do immeasurably more and be immeasurably different if change happened through you instead of around you or in spite of you. The word perhaps is used to express an uncertainty or possibility. But now, instead of telling yourself that perhaps it's time, I want you to have the audacity to start an endless ripple that will bring about meaningful change. Being audacious doesn't make the uncertainty go away, but the boldness of acting is what impels the promise of a reality that is bigger than your perhaps. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. Perhaps one day we'll get to change the world together.
Wow. Thank you, Ms. McCary, for joining us tonight with that wonderful and incredibly empowering speech. Finally, closing out the program for us tonight is the Voices at BGSU, a group of BGSU students who will be performing Hear My Prayer and the Battle of Jericho. Sorry, we're going to play that one again. Thank you for the wonderful performance, Voices at BGSU. Please stick around for the Q&A with our guests, Ms. Anna Brown and Ms. Jennifer McCary. You can start asking them questions now by putting them in the chat function on YouTube. Seeing as if we have no questions so far, Human Relations Commission would like to thank you all for coming and joining us tonight, as well as the City of BG IT department for all of their help with their program tonight. Thank you all for coming and remembering and joining us in the life of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.